Back here, WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. A little Bruce Springsteen bringing us back here on this Wednesday. 215-204-9449 is the number if you want to call and hang with us. Keith Pompey does a phenomenal job as the beat writer for Temple University's football and basketball program, and he joins us right now here. Zach Gelb here, Temple Sports Hour. Keith, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Zach, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's Halloween. I'm just curious. I see you in the press box all the time, dressed up in a nice suit, shirt, and tie, all that stuff. What does Keith Pompey wear for Halloween?
Some blue jeans.
Well, what were you for a kid? We were all kids. So what were you when you grew up? What was your favorite costume?
Oh, man. I'm old. I remember I used to get dressed up as Casper the Friendly Ghost. That was my favorite costume.
Well, I bet you were more of a guy that threw shaving cream and eggs at everyone. We all know you, Keith.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. But we'll keep that a secret between the two of us and all your fans, all your followers.
Well, that's good to know. Let's get to this basketball team before we get to the football team that just came out and did nothing up in Pittsburgh. Media Day is Thursday. Khalif Watt, he wasn't suspended because of what happened with the incident in Atlantic City. How shocked were you that he wasn't suspended at all?
Well, I mean, initially I was shocked until, I heard Fran Dunphy's statement. And also, it was one of those things where, his statement was, this guy has been through a lot. He's been extremely embarrassed. He has to deal with the humility. When they go on the road, Khalif Watt is going to wish that he was suspended because there's going to be a bunch of signs, a bunch of chants, and it's just going to be an embarrassing circumstance for him. And I think that's what Dunphy was trying to get, the point that he was trying to get across, that, hey, this guy is going to go through a lot. And the fact of the matter, I'm not saying that is right, but it seems like if you notice, whenever a student athletes get in trouble over the summer, it kind of sort of gets swept under the rug, So if this would have happened, let's say in September, the next thing Khalif would probably serve like a 2-game suspension. But the fact that it occurred over the summertime, it's kind of like it gets swept under the rug.
I agree with you, no doubt about it. You saw what happened with Kamal Johnson as well, and that happened in the season, and he got kicked off the football team. A little different circumstances with the charges that happened, but you look at Khalif, 4 out of the 8 leading scorers from last year aren't back with this team. Is he ready to be that big-time leader for Fran Dunphy and his squad?
I don't think Khalif is going to be looked upon as the leader. Scooty Randall is the leader. Like, Scooty Randall did not play last year, but if you went to the games and if you saw him, he was always the one standing up, always the one making sure the guys on the bench were ready to go in there. So as far as, I think it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off of Scooty, the fact that he's there, whereas off of Khalif, the fact that Scooty's there, because what Khalif can do now is just go out there and play. And then they all face it, this is, even though they have a lot of new faces to this team, Dalton Pepper, who transferred from West Virginia, is, a veteran guy. He can play. Jake O'Brien is one of, grad student, a 5th-year senior coming from Boston U. So they don't really need Khalif to be a rah-rah guy that makes sure everyone's doing what they're doing, because this is an experienced ball club.
It sounds like this team has a plethora of depth on their bench. What are some expectations for this Owls team this year? Can they go deep into the tournament?
That's kind of tough to say when Dunphy, he's been here for, X amount of years. I think they made 5 straight tournament appearances, and they only got past the opening round one time. I don't know how far they can go because a lot of injuries will depend on that. But I do think that they should be fine to get that first round.
We're talking to Keith Pompey, and let's get to the football team right now. The thing that has happened with the hurricane, how does it affect this Owls team preparation?
Well, they practiced yesterday. They did not practice on Monday, but they did do some things on Sunday. So, I'm not really, I know it affected them a little bit, but I can't sit here and say that, just because they missed a day of practice, that they're going to be totally unprepared, or missing a day of practice is going to, affect the outcome in the game.
No one is expecting this Temple team to go in there and get a victory into Louisville. I just said it before you came on. You'd be inane to even think that because Louisville has been so good so far through the course of the season, undefeated, number 12th in the nation. How do you think Adazio will sell that to his team this week?
Well, I mean, it's easy. Like, all Adazio knows, if I'm Adazio, I'll talk to the guys and I'll say, hey, look, right now we've been whipped the last 2 games. And even the students, your classmates don't think you're going to win. We have nothing to lose. Why not go out there and kind of shock the world? Now, again, I don't know if it's going to happen, but at the same time, he can do like a sell job that they did against Maryland last year. Now, again, Maryland isn't on the same class or level that Louisville is on at this particular time. However, they don't have anything to lose, and he might as well just try to tell them go out there and play surprise.
And Chris Coyer will be starting this week for the Temple Owls. How tight is the leash on this quarterback as he's been struggling all throughout the year?
Well, it is, but it isn't, because the problem, yes, Chris Coyer has been struggling. But if you look at it, Juice Granger is extremely inexperienced. I mean, he looked okay in the 4th quarter against Pittsburgh, but by that time, that's when people were fitting in the 3rd string, you know what I mean, the other team. So you really don't, you're limited on what you can do with Juice Granger. And, the 3rd string, Kevin Newsom, he hasn't played at all. So it sounds good to say that, okay, you want to take this guy out and they're battling, but when you don't have anyone else to fit in there, sometimes you have to just stick with the guy.
What has happened to Kevin Newsom? Because he had so much talent coming over from Penn State, and he hasn't been even able to get on the field. And every time I ask a reporter about this, we hear he's lining up at safety in practice, wide receiver. Why hasn't he been able to play quarterback?
Well, part of the problem was Newsom. He tried to get a waiver to come to Temple in January. The NCAA denied that, so he had to go to junior college. Well, he didn't complete his classwork until the day right before football camp started. So he was way behind. And not only that, but people got to realize he didn't even play in 2011. So he came, he lost weight, he was in good shape, but he was out of game shape. And then he gets this playbook at his feet, and he couldn't keep up. Now, I didn't think they expected him to keep up because they threw a lot at him, and he learned some, but about the time he started learning the plays was like during the first week of camp. The first week of the season. By that time, they just told him he had to be the scout team quarterback. So he was so far behind, and that kind of like prevented him from getting a chance, from actually battling for the starting spot.
We're talking to Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Keith, I saw you wrote a piece yesterday on Sean Boyle. What's the latest with his status for this game coming up against Louisville?
Well, and that's when I spoke to Adazio yesterday. He said they don't know. He says he has a lot of bumps and bruises, but he walked off the field holding his shoulder at the end of the game. Well, after the game, when they about to board the plane and everything, I'm in the sling. Now, my concern with that is here's a guy who had 4 shoulder surgeries. So, do you want to bring him back this soon? Who knows? Maybe he'll get treatment and he'll feel better by Friday. But at this particular time, I believe a shoulder injury isn't something that you should mess with. Now, Adazio, he's not going to say if he's healthy or not. I could get a better idea possibly on Friday, but at this particular time, he says he doesn't know if he's going to play.
The most concerning thing to me from that Pittsburgh loss was the front 7 for the defense, which has been pretty darn good throughout the whole course of the season, wasn't able to show up against 2 dominating backs in Graham and Shell. It doesn't get any easier this week going up against Perry and Wright for the Louisville Cardinals. How is this Owls defense going to change what they did last week going up against these 2 monsters this week for Louisville?
Well, I also think it's not just the running game. Now, I do think that Pitt has a better running back tandem in Louisville, but my biggest concern, is Teddy Bridgewater. It seems like teams who have passing quarterbacks, they all look like Joe Montana or Tom Brady against Temple. And I think that's going to be the same thing is going to happen on Saturday. Yes, the front seven gave up a huge rushing yards. But if you notice that came after the quarterback, like, kind of like loosens everything up by going deep against the Owls. So I think that Temple is going to have a hard time stopping Teddy Bridgewater, and what that's going to do is that's going to lead to brawls and screens and sweeps and all that stuff. So yeah, they have a huge upfield battle. I mean, but if you think about it, Matt McGloin, he looked like a Heisman Trophy candidate.
How about Perry Hillis of Maryland?
Exactly. I mean, I think this guy, here's a guy who, he struggled against William and Mary, and then he plays Temple and he gets ACC Player of the Week. And then look at Rutgers quarterback, Terry Nova. He's a solid quarterback. He's a game manager. But what he did is he torched Temple, and the next thing you know, he's Big East Athlete of the Week. And then he comes back and throws 5 picks. So it's kind of like, to me, that's the biggest concern, their inability to stop the pass.
It seems to me like Adazio's just going to have to re-recruit that whole position because the secondaries, like you said, has been totally awful this year.
Well, and see, you know what, and the thing about it is it does take time because we have to realize, now, see, a lot of people were getting hyped up and they were thinking about, okay, we won 26 games the last 3 years. Yeah, that was great. But what happens is, over those 3 years, you have 9 guys who are on NFL rosters right now, right? And we're talking about this was a MAC team. So this was going to be a rebuilding MAC team this year. So they go up to the Big East, where the guys, yes, the Big East, of all the quote-unquote BCS conferences right now, I would say that the Big East is probably the worst one. I mean, you can make that argument. But at the same time, they're more athletic, they're quicker, they're stronger. In some of the cases, they're bigger. So then you're taking these guys who were recruited to become MAC recruits who are freshmen, and next thing you know, they have to go up against, a Ray Graham or a Russell Shell, and it's like it's just hard to keep up. It's just hard. Now, what's going to happen is if they're successful, they can start bringing in some of the top-notch recruits. Now, it's going to take a couple of years for that stuff to translate on the field. But if Adazio stays here and he says he wants to, I think that he could build this into something that's pretty good.
Adazio also knows this area incredibly well, coming back to Connecticut, so he knows how to recruit the Northeast. We hear that all the time in the interviews he does. Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Keith, thanks so much. I appreciate it. See you out at the stadium real soon.
All right, man.